I'm going to turn this into this in 27 minutes or less. Will I finish in time, or will I have to hit the turbo button? You can paint along with me or just relax and watch. I'm Gina Murrow, the 27-minute artist. My best friend gave me some sunflowers, and I happened to see them from the back. And I thought, that's beautiful. Let's paint it. This is one of the easiest projects I'll be doing in this series. The point? Have fun. You'll learn how to break down a complicated scene into its essential shapes. I don't draw everything I see. I'll teach you how to use spot color as an accent, a wisp, a suggestion, and how to sharpen a colored pencil so that you don't break all the lead. My reference photo is a bit cropped, so I'm going to use my imagination to make the ends of the petals. Here are the supplies you'll need. A waterproof dark pen. I used a micro pen. Colored pencils and basic drawing paper. You can even use a sheet of printer paper. So let's get to the studio and have some fun. Today we're going to do a pen and ink with spot color. You can use almost any kind of archival permanent ink that you want. You can use a Sharpie marker. You can even use a ballpoint pen, and that would be fine. But I like to use these Micron 0100s, or just 01s I think they call them. They're archival, so if I end up wanting to keep it, I can. They're easy to use. They make a nice tiny little mark. We can approach this picture in a number of different ways. We could grid it and make it exact, but the point of this is to relax and doodle, more or less. Doodle with a purpose. So if your family's watching TV and you want to be with them, but you're not really interested in what they're watching, you can sit here and draw this picture at the same time and just have some Zen moments. So we're going to approach this by finding the petal, or the green part that comes on the outside, that is most in the center and the most uncovered. And I can see that big one right in the middle. So let's start there and draw its basic shape. It does not have to be exact. And I don't even have to draw the lines solidly. In fact, I won't, because I want it to have more of an artsy look. And your eye will fill in the parts of the petal that you don't draw. You don't want it to look like a coloring book. You want it to look more like a piece of art. There you go, see? So I'm just kind of making basic shapes. I can go back and sketch them in if I want a little more. And I'm going to do the green parts. I'm just going to get my framework in such a way that I'm beginning to see the shape of the sunflower. Now obviously I put this sunflower in the middle, and the sunflower in my picture kind of runs off the edge. Don't worry about it. Once you get it all done, you can trim up the paper, or use a mat, or put it in a frame, or any number of things, or just leave it. You are the artist, you get to decide. But we are sticking to the green parts right now. I can't see the top of this green part, but I'm going to assume it goes like that. And just using a few little hash marks going the direction I want your eye to look, I'm going to add in a little bit of shading with my pen, so I can get the feeling that, oh, there's the stem of this sunflower. Don't put in too many, because you're going to add some color, so you don't need a whole lot. Now let's move on to the yellow part. Here's my main petal that I started with. I really should look up the name of what they call that part of the flower, and I apologize. My biology 2 teacher would just roll over in his grave. I can't remember. We're going to start putting in the yellow parts, and you'll notice the yellow sunflower petals have some pointy ends, but they're not as pointy as the green parts. And there is a lot of directional longitudinal lines We're going to use that to kind of help the eye know, oh, this is almost like crepe paper. But we don't have to draw every line in. We just put a few of them in, like that. And next I'm going to do this big one. And a little more rounded edge. And I'm using the picture to guide me, not demand and dictate exactly what I put in there. So I've got those two. Now I want to get the one that's in between. And the temptation is to look at it in a micro version, like you're getting really close to it, and you actually want to step back a little and try to get it in more from a 30,000 foot view. And I'm just kind of relaxing and making a few lines. If you put a petal where you don't want it, you're going to just leave it and work with it and work it into your design, because pen doesn't erase. And that's okay. You are the designer now. You're using this picture as an inspiration, but how it comes out is up to you. Let's get this one in there. This has got a beautiful, oh, I love these curves. Like that. Now I kind of need to put that one in. I had not drawn that green, but it needed to be in. And I see a supporting green part here. Might end up turning that part yellow just to make it more believable. Again, these aren't exact. I make my lines go along the contours of the petal so that it kind of tells your eye, oh, this wave is like an undulating wave. And I have these coming in as if they are coming from a point there, and the point is really down here. So to fix that, I stick in some more yellow petals that are not in the picture, but they need to be there to help my sunflower have shape. Sunflower stems are gigantic. They need to be, to hold up that big, beautiful head. Okay, let's do that little bent over one. Okay, mine's a little narrower than the one in the picture. Also fine. And I think I could actually stick one there. Sunflowers don't have, they appear to have symmetry, but when you look at them, they have a lot of variety, which is kind of fun. Great. Like it, we're going to stop. Now we're going to add our spot color. We're not going to put color everywhere on the flower. We're going to put it in key parts, especially in the shadowy areas, to kind of give the sunflower a hint of yellow and green, but it doesn't have to be exact. So I just got these Prismacolor Technique colored pencils, and I love them. They blend beautifully. They have one called Premier, and I haven't quite yet figured out the difference between Technique and Premier, but Prismacolor came highly recommended, and sure enough, I can see why. So I set the ones I'm most likely to use here in my little strawberry basket, and I'm looking at this one, and I like the color, but it's a little bit, needs sharpening. Best way to sharpen colored pencils is to use an X-Acto knife. You can also use a small hand sharpener. Skip the electric sharpener, it will break the color lead and you'll lose a lot of money. So I just gently scrape away some of the wood there, being careful. Some artists make a really long lead. I'm too careless and too strong with my hand, so I make my lead a little shorter so that I don't break it so easy. I can use my thumb to push the sharpening. There, It's close enough. If you have little kids, you might want to go ahead and cover that up and get that out of reach. And then we're just going to put this is the darker goldenrod color, and I'm just going to kind of draw along the edges, the shadowy parts of my yellow petals. So I'm just adding some of this deeper color. It's not as deep as I was hoping it would be, so we'll fix that. I'll show you how to fix that. So you're just interpreting with this, helping the viewer's eye to see where the depth of color gets deeper because it's slightly out of the main part of the light. The center of these petals is kind of a wax base, and they just glide on. They're beautiful. Color pencils travel well. This is a good thing to take with you to the dentist office, even if you're just not traveling far, or if you're going on the airplane. You can use these on the airplane. TSA will let these through, things like that. And then the finished product travels well, and you can get it home easily without any special travel boxes. The cost of the Prismacolor are a little bit more than the average colored pencil, but you're going to get a much nicer blending, which you'll be glad to have in a minute. Now let's switch down to the next darkest. This one is sharp enough. It's sort of a medium orange, and I'm using a circular motion like this to kind of put that in. Again, not coloring everything, but because this is a lighter color, I can come farther up on my petal. When I get near the other color, I do my circular motion to kind of blend it, to add some brightness. Okay. Periodically step back, give it a view, think about where you want it going, then come back in there and add some more color. Whoops, I got it a little, didn't really want it there, so we'll just add some color here and act like I wanted it there. The more you do this, the more you will get more and more paintings that turn out the way you see them in your head. You need to silence that critic in your head that goes, well, gosh, you can't show that to anybody, you can't draw. You can. It just takes a lot of practice. We don't sit down at the piano and expect to play a concerto right off the bat. We just don't. We know it takes practice. But for some reason, we sit down at a drawing board with colored pencils and we expect to make something perfect the first time out. And that's just silly. Just silly. The point of this is have fun. Relax. Let the stress of the day go. That's what you're doing. Okay, now let's go to our very lightest yellow. It's sharp enough. And we're only going to put that kind of in some of the key spots where I think maybe you would get a little bit brighter light. When I took this reference picture, the sun was just coming over the top, as I mentioned earlier. And it was low in the horizon, but it was hitting these tops of the petals. Oh, it was so pretty. I could even appreciate it pre-coffee. Okay, now I don't want it down here so much unless this curved in front and picked up the light coming from over my shoulder. So think that through. Try not to put this anywhere, like that petal in the back wouldn't have this brighter yellow because it's shadowed by this petal and by these green parts. Okay. You can also go lighter just to get a hint of it. And I see some touch of yellow in these green supporting parts. So I'm just going to just barely, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, just barely put in some yellow. I'm going to come back over that with green You don't have to put it everywhere, just hint at it. Okay, so let's go back to our dark green. Start with that. If you don't have that many colors, don't worry. You can blend them by layering them with colored pencils. Even if you have the cheaper, you know, school grade colored pencils, you can still get a lot of this color in. Just be patient and layer it. I'm having trouble seeing where the green ones are, so I'm going to quickly go around and add some green to these green supporting members here. See, that's actually yellow behind there, so I'm going to take the darker goldenrod that I had and just put a little bit here. Whoop, that should have been green, so I'll take the lighter green now. And because I put goldenrod there, I'm going to add a little more green than I intended. Again, when you're blending, you're doing the little circular motion, like you're practicing O's in cursive. I'm just kind of letting it come away from the darker green and blending it out so it's not so abrupt. Now this one's probably going to be lighter green predominantly, because these are, I see these as the primary part of the sun. So this part's going to be up there. Switching to the darker green. I'm just feeling my way along here. I don't have to do it, you don't have to do exactly the way I'm doing it. Just keep in mind where your sun is coming in. Periodically you can make the sun rays so you get the feeling. Keep in mind where it is. Lighter touch lets you blend it more. Darker touch adds a darker color. Just add touches. Now where I put these hash marks, I was trying to show that that's where the base of the flower kind of makes a little curve. So I'm going to put the darker green along there as if it's part of the curve. And then down here where I made these marks, these are my shadowy greens. I'm going to put the darker green, right? Leaving the top part lighter. And now I'm going to take this lighter green and weave it into that so that it looks a little less, I don't want it to look like crayons. I want it to have more of a softer blended feel. And this is a good place to show you how to use one of these. I think they call them Tortillons. It's just a rolled piece of high rag content paper. You use them a lot when you draw with pencil or charcoal. You can peel part of the paper off to get them cleaner, but I'm not too worried about it. I'm going to use the edge of it and just rub it in. You could put a piece of tissue over your finger and do this. You could just use your finger, but if you have anything on your hand, it's going to rub into this. And all I'm doing is smoothing it. You can barely tell that it's different, but it does smooth it a bit. Don't get carried away with this part. Just a little bit of that. A better way to blend it is to take another color, usually the lighter color. Got to sharpen that pencil a little bit. Reveal more of the lead. Being careful, because sometimes you break the lead off. Just don't panic. Hold your knife so that you're shaving along the horizontal. You're not trying to dig down into it. You can use your other thumb to gently push it so it's all delicate and pushy. There you go. I like to put a piece of paper towel or tissue there so that it doesn't get all over the table. It's easier to clean up. Don't be afraid to make a mess when you're doing art. You are going to make a mess, and that's okay. Some of us had moms that got really freaked out if we made a mess. And so what's happened is we're so afraid of making a mess that we don't take time to be creative. And sometimes creativity requires a little bit of mess. Taking my third middle yellow color to pull this petal out a little better. There was a tangle here, so I wanted to make that definitive. Circular motion. This is still my lighter green. Blending that a little more to make it look a little less blocky. Blocky's not bad. Let's switch greens here. Go back to the darker green and get in this shadowy area. I need to put on my best Bob Ross voice for this part, because this is very calming. I love to turn on Bob Ross videos and just let them play in the background. I don't even watch, because he has such a great voice. Okay, now I'm going to take purple. I'm taking purple because it's a nice shadow color. It's dark. It will read almost as a shade, but it's not black. And I'm just going to weave it into the color a little bit in any area that needs to be darkened. So don't get it up here where the sunshine is. Here's my rays, right? You can do, you can, well, actually for this part, I think I'm just going to go in the direction that the stem is moving. Sunflower stems have a bit of a rib, and that's kind of what I'm imitating here. And then right down in here in the darkest darks, just where the shadows would be. Careful to pay attention that it's a shadow. And if you goof, don't worry. I mean, it's probably not going to be enough for anybody to notice. But it'll add some darkness. I think that still needs to be a little darker. I need to be a little bolder with it. Don't be afraid of getting lights and darks in. And if it looks jarring, then you've jumped too many values. Find a middle color that will kind of help those two interpret what's going on. I have a lot of trouble with that. I know what I want it to look like, and then I go to do it. Sometimes it's more jarring than it is accurate. And that's usually what I've done, is I've jumped too many values. That just takes practice. Okay, and now I'm going to take, I forgot to put this one out, but I'm going to take this lovely brown, because these green supporting actors here, and I'm pressing hard, have a lovely brown edging, and I'm just doing it along the tops. Not too wide, that one's about to get too wide, so I'll just stop. But I am putting on each one. That's a definitive part of this sunflower. But I don't go all the way down. I just mainly do it at the tips. Okay, actually, that's looking really good. You could go further if you wanted. I could take, this is a mulberry. Let's see what happens. Yeah, okay. It's warm. It's kind of a pinky color. Some sunflowers have a leaning towards a deep orange. I've never seen a blue sunflower, you know. I mean, you have to kind of, unless you're going totally imaginary, which is perfectly fine, you're gonna stick to what the flower usually tells you it does. So I'm just adding a little bit of this mulberry because I have it, and I can make the flower look a little more alive by putting this in some of the shadowy areas. You don't have to do this. If you don't have this color, just skip this part. Or choose a different color, a deeper orange, or even a brown. Now that's starting to look a little pink, and that's not quite what I want. So I'm going to go back to this, the deepest macaroni and cheese color that I have, and go back over some of those pink spots. So I still get the depth of color, but I turn it more yellow again. Because I am looking for a little bit more reality for this one. I'm not being imaginative with this one in the sense I'm not painting a pink sunflower, which you could do. You're the artist if you wanted, but that's not what I want for this flower. Again, don't fill in every part, just hint at the color. We can fix that part right there too. That's bugging me. So I'm going to take my darker green, shadow side, sunlight coming through, right? And here I'm going back and forth to follow the stem, follow the framework of the stem. Next time I do a floral, I'm going to look up all the names of the parts of the flower because I can't remember them. If you remember them, if you're a gardener and you know the names of all these things, put them in the comments below. I would love it. And you would help us all out. Like, what are these green parts called? See, by darkening this petal in the back, it made this one lighter come forward. I don't really like that that's all yellow, so I'm going to take my brighter green, because the sun is shining through this part of the petal, and very lightly swirl in little O's over the top and green that up a bit. Okay, now I'm starting to overwork it. So stop when you're ahead. Let it go. And actually, I'm looking at that and it reminds me of that sunflower. It's pretty. Now that we're friends, here are a few things you can do to help me keep the videos coming. Hit the subscribe button below and leave a comment while you're there. Share this video on your social media or share it with a friend. You can go to my website where you'll find more painting tips, and you can buy the paintings I've created in these episodes. You can also see my fine art originals that took me way more than 27 minutes to create. Book me as a guest artist for your next gathering or convention. I do live painting demos and paint-alongs for groups of every size, either in person or via Zoom. Next time on 27 Minute Artist, we're going to use children's crayons and a piece of brown paper to create a massive animal that came to visit my cabin in Alaska one day. See you next time.